I revived him. I breathed new life into this person.
I don't want to look forward to dying. I want to look forward to living.
I can't put more emphasis on it, how important it is just to get into the room and ask one question. How are you doing?
None of your business, Oshi. None of your business, Michael.
It's the None of Your Business podcast, hosted by Michael and Oshi.
This episode has been sponsored by Tapestry Health. I'm a big fan of Tapestry Health and everything that they're doing in nursing homes today. They are a full ecosystem of all kinds of services, from clinicians that they provide to your nursing home, CCM, RPM. They're not just doing it, they're doing it with artificial intelligence. They're tapping into your EMR, extracting all the pertinent information so your doctors have clinical pathways of how to heal your patients better. They provide telemedicine and a slew of other things as well.
Or check out their website, www.tapestryhealth.com. And by the way, Oshi, they're also providing the service at home now.
If you're not working with Tapestry Health, you're missing the boat. Most of this is funded, won't be out of pocket. Go check them out, tapestryhealth.com. The owners that are running Tapestry are doing an unbelievable job. Go check it out.
And now back to our show. Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the None of Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Michael Greenfield. Joined with me is my good friend and business partner and co-host, Mr. Oshi Schwartz, the previous winner of the bowling league.
You went there.
I had to because, you know, it's okay to come on number 3 sometimes, by the way. We'll talk about that.
No. Ricky Bobby said, if you're not first, you're last.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. I feel like
Ricky Bobby, yeah, you live your life by that.
Yeah, he's a famous fictional character. Everybody knows him.
Yeah, no, I get it. It makes sense. Well, thank you, all of you, for subscribing, liking, and commenting. Of course, we are sponsored by the Prime Source production team. Today, we are joined by my good friend, Elie Goldring here, and I'm excited to have you here for a few reasons. Number one is because I know you're embarking on a journey of EOS and consultation of businesses, and I want to learn more about what that means, but also your growth from what we call soulpreneurship to entrepreneurship and how you got there and your involvement with an amazing organization. So much to cover. And these are things that I knew about for years. You worked for Culinary Depot for a long time. Culinary Depot is a good friend and business partner of the Prime Source family, and they're amazing, amazing people. And Elie, give us...
Where do we start?
Where do we start? You know, it's all about the journey, where you come from, what you're doing, where you're going. So where do you come from? Where do you go, Kakanai Joe?
There you go. So let's start. So the 1-minute story is that I'm a second-generation entrepreneur coming from my father. And I did a little digging into the family, and it's interesting that out of 7 brothers, 6 are self-employed from the sense of either in sales or own their own businesses. And I embarked in my journey from 2 perspectives. One, from always being curious and digging deeper into things to understand how to overcome challenges. And the other area was from my dyslexia, from recognizing that I need to always be creative in a way to overcome a challenge in a different way than the traditional way. So with that, I went through the school system and found myself to land a position in sales as a professional career. Before that, I was the jack of all trades and did many, many different areas of entrepreneurship, let's call it, or for some it's still solopreneur, as a one-man band starting off and selling cars or selling cell phone accessories. Whatever I got my hands on, I figured out how to turn a profit. So it was all about what can I buy it at, a little bit of negotiation skills, but it's about like what did I get my hand on. And I was fortunate later on in my life to get hired by Culinary Depot, Michael Lichter and Shalom Potash.
Who, by the way, built a massive company.
Beautiful company.
Very commendable what they pulled off.
Yes, in a short amount of time with
yeah.
great people. And I want to emphasize on that. They are great people, and they did it with great people. And it was the teamwork that, if anybody asked me what's the secret sauce over there, I think that's what it is. It's family-oriented, very, very team-oriented. And if we look back at the successes and the failures and the bumps in the road over there, that's what brought us to where we were, where they are today, and where I was with them. Very fortunate. I was there 18 and a half years. I started off as their very first salesman, to building out a team, to being a manager, to going into the business development side of things, and really growing with them as they grew. So that was a really beautiful journey. Through that journey, I was fortunate to start a non-for-profit. I felt like it was time to give back. I was involved in a lot of askanis. We'll have to Google that word and see how to put it up in English in the sense of...
I mean, even in Hebrew, that word means a lot of different things to a lot of different
Right.
I'd love to try to translate that for a second.
Yeah,
You're
so
an
askan-
askin,
and-
you're a doer.
A doer,
Doer.
from
A
the
philanthropist? No.
sense of... No.
Just a doer.
Just a doer from the sense of understanding that someone needs your attention and see it through to the end. So if it means a fundraiser or sending a meal to a hospital or picking up someone's kid or arranging the Saturday night whatever it is that a function that's going on.
He's somebody who just steps up and rises to the occasion when called upon.
Exactly. I used to call it the yes man. Okay, there are those people that are just known as the yes man. And we'll talk later maybe a little bit about those that are driven and ADHD and how they're wired and what drives them to do all these things. But I was known as that yes man, and I grew that into a non-for-profit organization by identifying a very specific need in the community where it was able to address a pain point. Not going to get into all the details right now. Hopeorg.org. For those that want to look at it,
No, I want to know. Give me the 10-second pitch. What does hope.org do?
It's a Lakewood-based...
Hope.org?
No, hopeorg.org.
Oh, I see.
Got it.
Okay, 'cause
Yeah.
there was already a hope.
There's
I
a
said there's no way
hope.org.
he has hope.org.
That's right.
I
That's
mean,
right.
we can monetize on this. I want to stop this podcast now and let's talk about how we capitalize on that. So it's hopeorg.org.
Hopeorg.org.
Good one, by the way.
I'm
Yes,
going to
good
tell
one.
you that when I came up with that name, I got an instant feedback on the negative side saying, how can a Jewish guy go out and put the hope? Do you know what people are going to end up if they go to hope.org?
Exactly.
Hope.org or hope.com and everything. I said, okay, now I know why I picked it. So actually my wife came up with that name. It is a acronym for helping out people every day. And that's why I really, really love that word. What is it in a 30-second elevator pitch? It's we help families that fall into financial stress due to a crisis by providing them a one-time financial assistance. So we give them just a chance to catch their breath and see themselves out of a financial cringe in one area. Let it be tuition, rent, mortgages, a mortgage, a assistance at home, if it's babysitting or any type of additional help.
How did you identify this pain point? I mean, there's so many organizations.
So there's exactly. So it actually came about through being involved in two situations in my neighborhood that it was shocking to know that one family was just going away for Shabbos because they didn't want to see themselves on the list of Tamche Shabbos. They just felt like they shouldn't be taking from an organization like that. They were struggling with a mother with cancer, to the point where they were going away Shabbos because they just didn't have the money to pay the bills for Shabbos all week. They
and once
figured
you
out.
give them one time, you don't
So,
usually...
so hopefully this is a short-term crisis
Right,
from the
right.
matter that they can
Very
see
cool.
themselves out of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, they get a loan, they have a family, this, that.
No,
There's
our
like
good
a
friend
million-
Joel Wall does this also, by the way.
Yes, so-
He's very active in this. He finds those cases, and you made an organization out of this concept.
Correct. So
which is
I
amazing.
started exactly the way Joel is doing it
Beautiful.
today, and it grew to the point where the pain was just greater than the ability that I said I have to go become registered, a 501c3, and then I was fortunate that right after I went out to the market with it, Yehuda Suskind, a great partner of mine in the organization, you may know him from the Powwow Three Stooges, as I call them. So Joel, Mac, and Yehuda, and he was the person that was responsible for raising all the finances, and he took that off my head. I was known as the jack of all trades. I was wearing all the hats in the non-for-profit at that point, and he came about and he took on that responsibility, and he really helped me grow.
Wow. I have to tell you, in my opinion, that's the hardest part.
That is the harder part, and I'm going to tell you, even within that part of it, it's actually building the relationships with people and going after and asking and educating the people. And he did a phenomenal job. He's grown the organization to where it is today.
Amazing.
Fast forward, in 2020, I learned about EOS, and I read the traction book. And I was actually introduced by a good friend of mine, Tzvi Schwartz, an implementer as well in the community.
What does EOS stand for?
EOS.
For those that don't know.
Yes, EOS is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which we'll talk about a little later. And here's my 1-minute story. So we're getting to the end of it. So I was introduced to the traction book. I sat through what's called a 90-minute meeting. Tzvi Schwartz came to me and says, "Listen, Elie, I want to help you get unstuck. I want you to be able to grow this non-for-profit to what your true vision is. Back then, I only had
One
dreams.
second. So you stopped working at Culinary, and
No,
you were
no,
doing.
no.
You're
We
still
did-
working at Culinary.
We did
at the time.
everything simultaneously. We went from working 60 hours a week to 90 hours a week.
Got it. So you're doing Culinary,
Culinary and Hope.
and you're
full-time.
starting Hope now. So you're doing both those things at the moment in 2020.
You know, someone
No.
recently just said.
One second, let me go back.
Someone recently just said that they work 9 to 5 and then 5 to 9. You're right. They're
Yeah.
doing both. So that's what you did.
I just want to make sure I understand this timeline.
So let's go back to timeline. Timeline is I incorporated and started the non-for-profit in 2015. And I went from 2015 to 2020, myself and Yehuda, in the sense of building out the non-for-profit. And that's when I hit the ceiling. When COVID came around, we had almost 400 applications at the point. We kind of shut down for the moment. That was the direction that we got from the rabbinical guidance. We were just not set up to be able to handle that type of load in that moment. So back to your question, is in 2020 when I got introduced to the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, I was fascinated by it. I'm a very, little did I know that I'm a very process-driven person, and I love accountability and systems. So when I read that, it was just a proven process that was systemized and simple. I incorporated that myself within the organization, and I decided at that point to go out and hire the next best person to be able to continue growing that, and that was Daniel Leibowitz. I'll talk about him later in the podcast as well, where he branched out and helped in many, many different areas. Again, to scale the non-for-profit, at that point we scaled 300% just by adding one person. We identified all the different roles and functions of the organization. Where do I fit best? Who needs to sit in other seats? And that's how we were able to build it out to where it is today. Fast forward, through that journey of 2020 and 2021, I became more and more intrigued and falling in love with the EOS due to the fact that it's so systemized. And I made the choice at the end of 21 to take that on as a passion of mine, not knowing if it's going to be a career of mine, but very, very passionate about it. Fast forward, I juggled Hope, Culinary Depot, and EOS implementation through 22, 23, and 24, to where at the end of 24, I was able to recognize that that is where I am heading. There's a lot of potential. It really, really feels fulfilled. And I decided to let go of Culinary Depot as a career.
Wow.
Still
After 20 years.
20 years, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that conversation like with the ownership, the leadership team,
It-
letting them know that you're hanging it up and you're retiring from the company?
Great question.
I'm very curious. I'm only asking this
Yeah.
because I had experience recently with somebody who's been in our company for a good amount of years, and they came to me to let me know that they were going to resign, and I could tell that it was pent up for a while, like they weren't sure how to say it to me. And when they said it to me, it was with tears in their eyes, and it was a very heartfelt moment. It was very difficult to make that decision. So I know it's hard, but for you, that's 20 years. That's a long time in the making. You were a part of the foundation of Culinary Depot. You were there right when it started, and to make this gigantic decision that you're moving in a different direction, you must have had a lot of emotions. It must have been very difficult. So how did that happen?
A lot of emotion. And I'm going to tell you that it took 3 years to build that up through the journey that I found myself. Okay. There's times in your life that we'll call it, you have the evolution and the revolution. And I was going through that by becoming more educated of book knowledge versus street knowledge. I tell everybody, all of my skill in sales, starting with a lot of Isiyata Dishmaya, and everything comes from God. But I did learn the hard way, meaning that everything was from the street. Whatever I know today is because I learned it from someone that I interacted at some point. There were great mentors. Experience. Interaction experience. Okay. And in 2020, I got very curious and I started reading books, and I became a listening to books drunkie, and I'm over 100 books year to date. So 100 for 3 years. That's about 30 books on average.
While being dyslexic.
correct.
And never reading until...
Never, ever read any books or listened to any books, or forget about podcasts. There were none then. A lot of radio when I was young. That I would say 770 was definitely my go-to.
10-10, 10-10 wins.
10-10, yeah. One of them are.
Give us 27 minutes and we'll deliver the world.
22.
22 minutes, something like that. Yeah.
Close enough, you know.
Yeah, do you
880
remember?
on the 8s, traffic on
880.
the 8s. Yeah,
Traffic's
yeah.
on the 8th. Traffic's on the 8th. Yeah.
Are they still around, these radio stations?
So one of them are out of business. I don't remember which one. I don't know if it's 10-10. I think 10-10
is
is
still in business.
It's still in business. Then 880 is out.
You know
One of
that
them are
is.
out of business. I recently someone told me I was like,
we'll give you the world.
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. So a lot of radio back in the day, and
I find that amazing, by the way, because I don't really read books, and I've tried, and I also have this challenge of dyslexia or ADD combined with
Michael, you don't have dyslexia.
I get bored.
Why are you like making excuses why you don't read books? You're blaming it on dyslexia. You're also like diminishing
Did you hear
his
what he
real
just did?
dyslexia.
He just did it. Why does he have real dyslexia?
Because we don't know him that well. If he's telling us he has
You
dyslexia,
know
we
me,
could
that-
assume that he probably does.
But he overcame it.
I know you very well, so
overcame it.
I know if you have or if you don't have it. And you certainly don't have it.
let me tell you, the percentages from the experts is that 5% of people have it. So that means 1 out of 5. So if you're in a room with 20 people, there's a good chance that 4 people.
1 out of 5 is not 5%.
Could you explain?
That's a
what
lot more than
dyslexia
that.
is,
That's like
please?
20%.
20%.
No,
What I'm saying
explain what
it's
is-
1/5
Explain
of
what is
the
dyslexia.
room.
How did you overcome suddenly a dyslexia? What is dyslexia to you? What was it to you?
So what was it to
You
me?
couldn't read
So
one page?
I could not sit down and focus to read one page. So let me tell you, as you get older, it gets more complicated because of the vocabulary, okay? Or what it is that you need to read and what is it that is being shared with you and how fast you have to get it done, okay? So I'm just going to share with you. My road test, I actually broke the New York State law. Now I could say it. It's 20 some odd years later.
I don't know if there's a statute of limitation on this. Be careful. Tread lightly.
Tread lightly, it's fine.
Go ahead.
I convinced, and that's what I'm talking about, my skill. I was 16, and I convinced the lady behind the counter to give me the test twice in one day, and that's against the law. You cannot take your written road test twice in one day. I took it at 11 a.m., and then I took it at 2 o'clock again. It took that long of negotiations. So I took my my permit 3 times, and I passed on the third by chance only because I already knew all the questions from sitting there and breaking my head to understand which ones are the non-necessary or the not relative ones that I got it by like 1%. I think then it was like 60.
They give you the same exact road test, the written test.
The written
It's
test
the
is
same one over and over until you pass.
It's believe it or not, it's the same 100 questions. Back then when we had it, you had to fill out the bubble. It was the same 100 questions, just in a different order. So that's where the driven people, and I remember things very well. So I was able to memorize a lot of the questions and understand which ones are the right answers. I didn't read the book to begin with, so how did I know what to answer?
Right.
From experience of just being in the car with others and making assumptions.
Do you think you
of
can
understanding.
pass a written test right now? Like if you took one? Probably not. I think most of us can't pass it.
I'm dyslexic.
No. Not because you're dyslexic. It's because the questions that they ask, most of them aren't really truly relevant to real life driving and,
No, the driving permit, it's a fact. The driving permit today, in today's day and age, is probably 70%. I'm guessing that a high percentage of the test is all about drunk driving and alcohol and
Right.
drugs.
Yes.
Nothing really to do with your skills of driving, learning what to do when you're turning.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
What does this sign mean?
Right.
What is that?
Signs are a very small percentage. Stefan's looking it up. He'll give us the answer in a minute. No rush.
Yeah.
We're trying something new
It's
here.
not for this, Michael. We don't need to know this desperately. This is okay that we can live without this
I see.
information.
I see.
Yeah,
The
something
written
that
test would be hard. I have to share a quick story. I'm sorry to interrupt the program, but you just took me back to 8th grade. Rabbi Laser Schwartz. He was my Rebbe.
Rabbi Laser.
Rabbi
Schwartz.
Laser Schwartz, Yeshiva Torah Vodas. I have a lot of memories. Some I won't really share here today, but one of the memories I have of Rabbi Laser Schwartz is that I was in charge in 8th grade every Sunday morning before he would come to class of breaking into his cabinet and stealing the test and bringing the test to one of our smart friends. His name is David G. That's all I'll say. And he used to give us all the answers in advance, and we would memorize it, and we would write down 3, 2, 4, 2, 1, 3.
It was multiple choice.
Multiple choice answers. So we'd write it down, and for like 6 weeks, all of us, who never paid attention in class, would ace the test. We would get 90s, we'd get hundreds. And one time, I get the test back, and it's a big fat 0, and it says, "Please tell your parents to call me." And I'm like, what happened? Anyways, I'm the only guy that didn't realize that he changed the test. And he caught us. So he changed the test, And I'm thinking 1, 2, 3. I didn't even look at the questions.
And you're all writing the same
Well,
numbers.
everyone else caught on except for me because I'm dyslexic.
There you go. I was saying that Ushi right there. Maybe.
Go ahead.
Maybe.
I've seen this man write emails.
No, you can write emails when you're dyslexic. You can actually read a page. You can read a summary.
I've heard
go
you
through
read
3
before.
pages.
I refuse to believe that you're dyslexic. And in today's
Acute dyslexic. How about that?
in today's age, we're very quick to diagnose people. We're very quick to the trigger. And sometimes it's not just because you have a disability. Sometimes it's really because you're not putting in effort, or you need to try a little more. You need to practice a little more time, whatever it is.
Big insult.
I'm not
I've
saying
tried it
this
many times. Let's hear about his.
Let's go to
Let me
dyslexia.
just pop in.
Yeah.
The
written test.
Written test for the, let's say, New York state permit consists of road signs, traffic laws, safe driving practices, and driving skills. Really not.
Oh, really? So I was wrong, you're saying.
Yeah, those things actually sound very related to what we do in
Interesting.
everyday driving. stuff.
Absolutely wrong. So, Stefan, the
Yes.
first time you Googled me, I was 100% wrong. You're saying.
Exactly. I'm liking this fact check.
I'm thinking
this
that
is working out really well.
this information is incorrect. I don't know. I can't really read it because I'm dyslexic. I
Google,
saw
but
my
if you-
kid taking it the other day, and that's what it was: alcohol and drugs. So it's maybe they just changed it. Maybe
I'm sure it's on the test.
changed it yesterday.
But, it's a much different test now. It's also electronic.
Anyway, we're getting very distracted.
Very
over here.
distracted. Let's
Yeah.
move
What-
back.
What were
forgot
we
another
saying?
one.
I don't even
back-
remember.
I don't want to
to
say
dyslexia.
we have ADD because that would label us. I don't want to do that.
Without the label.
Oh no, we all have ADD.
Oh,
that's for sure.
that you're allowed to
I
say.
think every person in the world has ADD. It's just to what degree do
Oh,
you
now
have?
you're allowed to label everything.
How severe is your ADD? That's all.
So I'm going to
We
go
all
back.
have trouble staying focused, Michael.
Right.
Everybody has trouble with that. It's
Some
just,
of us have trouble reading.
some
But
have it worse than others. Yeah, but you're not dyslexic because you have
what do I
trouble
call
reading.
it for crying out loud?
Okay, so there's ADD and then there's ADHD. So yes, maybe more of the percentage of the world has ADHD, but without going into the labeling, there's a beautiful term that I learned from Dr. Douglas Brackman. It's called driven. And actually, the studies show that it's 8% of the world are driven people, and the other 92% are the standard people. Now, I'm not going to get into who's driven, who's not, but what we do know is that the way that you're wired and born is different. Okay, so those that are challenged with dyslexia, they have a different need of how to overcome it. Mine was a lot of neglect at a young age, I'm going to call it, where it impacted my reading very, very direct. So I skipped class and I didn't do the tests, and I snowballed it and snowballed and snowballed. By the time I was in 4th grade, I was already 3 classes behind, and so on and so on and so on. So, you could be dyslexic and you could know how to read. It could be much more of a sense that you're just wired a different way, and it requires different strengths or surroundings in order to be
I
able
hear
to
that. By
stay
the way,
focused.
I think I'm more ADHD than dyslexic, and
Right.
that's why it's hard for me to
right.
read. Yeah.
So that's why a big.
But you're more dyslexic, though.
I am.
You're saying because you made that statement.
My disability is dyslexia,
yeah.
and I happen to also be driven. So when I was younger, I went through a Ron Davis program, and when I went through his whole.
I'm sorry. What's a Ron Davis program?
So the Ron Davis is a person that was dyslexic. At the age of 50, he figured out a method of how to overcome it. He has a program. It's out there. It's actually introduced to the Jewish world already. That was one of my dreams when I was younger to bring it. It was only available in California, and it was a very complicated thing for young Jewish boys or girls to enroll and get help. And thank God that is already out there, and it's in the mass public ability, which is beautiful.
Beautiful.
So through the Ron Davis program, he used to phrase it to saying that the ADHD is a result of the dyslexia, and that was I sticked with that from like 25 to almost 35, and then after 35, I started realizing and learning more about it and doing a lot of research that it could be that it's a combination of both, and really you're born with that wiring of driven, which could be the opposite way around. Due to the fact that you're wired with the ADHD, it could have a major effect in your learning ability, which ended up creating this disadvantage of being dyslexic.
Okay, so what makes
So
you
dyslexia, let's go back to
driven?
dyslexia.
You said you're part of that 8% that's driven.
Driven.
You said you label yourself as driven. What does that mean?
Right. So before I go there, I want to go back to the part of dyslexic or not dyslexic. It's really the question is, are you oriented or disoriented? Okay. How long does it take you to get laser focused? What strengths do you need to overcome to be able to get focused? And that's where the dyslexia people, it just triggers a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a much longer time to get oriented.
How do I evaluate if I have dyslexia?
So the Ron Davis has a little trick of the trade of how they do it with the
Wonderful.
triangle.
There's got to be a test that you
I'm
can
going to
take.
do the test.
Okay,
I'd
good.
like to know it.
So look it
because-
up. Do
Because,
the
by
Ron
the way,
Davis.
ADHD, which you're throwing around also as a label that everybody, I think it's a smaller percentage than you think. I don't think most people are ADHD. I think it's actually less than 20%.
Well, according to the research that Douglas Brackman, it's 8% that are, but they're driven.
Okay, go back to that.
I'm actually curious what Google says. Like, how many people in our population are considered ADD? Like, legit ADD.
I actually enjoy this, by the way. It's fact-checking us.
Yeah.
And
5% globally.
Are ADD?
Yeah.
all right.
5%?
5% globally, and between 5 and
I don't buy
10% in the U.S.
It's a very broad term then
Again.
about what ADD is.
You asked me to fact check. I'm getting you the facts. And
Oh,
you're
what are
already,
you
fighting
using
the
for your
facts.
fact checking?
I told you, shivaworld.com. Is that the right?
By the way,
you going there?
yeshivaworld.com should know better.
Steph,
But
that's literally
Yeah,
the
I'm
best
good.
line
I'm
I've
good.
ever heard. Literally.
Thank you.
in our
Put that
community, it's
down.
probably like 90% are ADD.
So let me tell
Going
you.
to
So that so I, want,
ChatGPT.
I want to jump on that. The people that you surround yourself with are the influence that you feel the whole world is like.
I guess. It's my inner circle.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
your inner
energy.
circle. Now, your inner circle happens to be that you chose to have that inner circle that maybe 7 out of 8 or 9 out of 10 happen to be very, very driven, hyperactive, and they get things done and they're fast and everything. So that's what you see the world as. That you're seeing it through that lens. But let's think about it. Going to, let's say, Walmart or any major office that has thousands of people that are sitting there 9 to 5 doing their job. Typically, most of them are not ADHD if they're sitting at a job 9 to 5.
By the way, I'm the guy that gets people back on track. I remember stories like a hawk. This is one of my little hidden talents. So you take your dyslexic, entrepreneurship, motivated, brave self, and you walk into your boss's office at Culinary Depot after 20 years.
That's where we started.
And what happened?
That's where it was.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, okay, in November of 21, when I went to what's called boot camp to become registered, was also the time that I introduced it to Michael Lichter. And Michael Lichter had a good friend, Mathis Gilbert, from the one and only RSK.
We know him very well.
Excellent. And he has
Holy,
been-
holy Yid. Sorry, I had to say it.
Yes, holy Yid, and credits to Tzvi Schwartz again, because Tzvi Schwartz was extremely passionate about helping these individuals like myself and Matis, and we were hustling back then. Let's go back 2020. I don't know if too many people knew what RSK was, and when he started, he has a fascinating story as well. Anyway, he introduced EOS to RSK, and it's done tremendous work and help in that area. So, Moshe Lichter, Michael, was well aware of what EOS has done for others, and he decided to look further into it, and he onboarded Tzvi Schwartz just around February time
Very nice.
at Culinary Depot, and Culinary Depot has been running on EOS and utilizing the tools and systems since 2022. So now we're 3+ years in. So that was...
I just have to interrupt and say, for a company to be successful on that level and bring in more help, kudos to them. I'm very aware of that when companies do that. We brought in a consultant 10 years ago. We did it again 5 years ago. We don't need any more consultants because we have Ushi.
Oh,
And,
tell me more.
and
he just means that Ushi's going to bring the next consultant.
No, what I mean is he just tells us what to do.
What to
and
do,
we have no
right.
choice. But yeah, so I have to mention that.
Yeah.
Kudos to these guys and the whole Lichter family, amazing people.
Yeah.
Potash family, what amazing people. We have to bring all these people on the podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
Gilbert.
They're all stars
Potashes.
in their own right. They really
They're
are.
such great
They're
people.
all driven and they're all superstars.
Yeah. They
So-
probably all have ADHD and dyslexia. But anyways, so you're
No
there.
dyslexia. Don't label the whole world. And I'll tell you why.
The same 5%.
You have dyslexia. You have dyslexia. Everybody has
For
dyslexia.
those that don't read, dyslexia probably has a lot to do with it. But anyways, going back to there. So you're there.
So going
now.
back, so the EOS
I want to go
journey-
back to Ushi. Take us to
Yeah,
that emotion.
so they embarked on this journey of EOS,
yes,
and they became
yes.
familiarized with it.
Got it. So it wasn't that
So
uncomfortable.
it wasn't so
meaning,
uncomfortable.
like,
So
you
they
guys
understood
were-
where the passion came
Right,
from
right,
and what
right.
what my strengths are. And nobody out there knows me better than Michael Lichter and Moshe and Shalom Potesh and Michael Lichter. Okay, so
What do they know about you?
they know everything about me. We worked together 20 years.
He spent
okay?
more time with them than he did with his wife.
For
Like,
sure.
You know,
Yeah.
Just about. If you do the calculation,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
Not that crazy.
It's
but
not that crazy.
You're married to your work is the reason
For-
why there's a terminology.
For whoever
Yeah.
doesn't realize that for those that work more than 40 hours a week, doesn't realize that they're spending more time at work than they are with their family.
Absolutely.
So
Sure.
wake-up call right there.
Yeah.
Okay?
But that's normal, by the way.
and a good book for that.
The Rambam went to work. I'm saying work
That's
is a
right.
normal thing.
Yeah, work is a normal thing. You just
I
have
know,
to have
but
a
we
life
actually also
balance.
bring our work home with us. We don't just work 9 to 5, so it ends up accruing, and it's a lot of hours. And you're also giving a lot of yourself, your energy, your passion
yeah.
also goes to work. And you come home depleted. You're not giving that same energy level to your family. So if you really like zoom in and you double click, as our good friend Yossi told us, you double click on this, you'll actually see that you're living your life more at work than you are in your own personal life,
right.
which is crazy. It's crazy. Like you're giving over a piece of yourself. Like your real life is taking place at the workplace. It's mind-boggling. It's not okay. But
So
that's
with
what's
that-
really happening.
So with that being not okay, there's a great book out there. It's called Juggling Elephants. It's a real small book for all those that are dyslexic. You can listen to it. And all those very, very, very busy employers or employees, it's like 50 pages. It's an awesome
I'll ask
read.
you what I ask everybody that tells me they read a great book.
Yeah.
Please tell me the message of the book. What does the book actually
The
say?
The message of the book is get focused, understand what your priorities are in life so that you don't end up feeding your kids into the same danger or jungle that you were in.
Break
So
the cycle.
Break the cycle. So this is about a father that the daughter comes to him and asks direction in business, and he says, I wrote this book, and blah, 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 and he goes through the circus and how he gets coached and recognized by the ringleader that you can't dance in all 3 rings and run the show and entertain the audience and this, that, and whatever. So it's all about time management and prioritizing and what's the important things in life. Delegating and all that. Correct. So with that, so it was a 3-year exit strategy, let's call it, for myself and Culinary Depot until we were able to pull the trigger. And it was hard. And I'm going to say it now that I'm 5 months in that out of the zone, let's call it. It's still in my gut, and I still feel part of the family. And I believe that I'll still go back at some point in a different type of position, a different role, because I am committed to see their success, and I do believe that they'll reach their potential.
Wow.
And it's, I have a lot of...
It's never going to leave you. They always have a special place in your heart. And at the end of the day, now you're going on one journey, but this journey hasn't ended yet. You're starting an additional one.
Correct. Simon Sinek says, if you tie it all back to your why, then you just have many different causes. And yes, you could juggle many different causes as long as you compile all those causes into one ring based on that juggling elephants.
Yeah.
And you understand that that's your career, let's call it. Okay, that's
You
your
articulated that very well. I've
Yeah.
heard of this. We've heard, the why concept.
Yeah.
But I like the way you articulated it. And
Yeah.
you're in your 30s, 20s. What are you in your?
job. Yeah, look at me, my
Right?
20s. Yeah,
He's got a big beard. I mean, he's got to be at least 50 or something.
You have a little bit of a young face. You could do anything.
I'm a 41 happy-year-old.
You're 41.
41.
For
Nice.
someone to change careers in their 40s,
That's not crazy.
it is a little
crazy.
That's not crazy.
It is
40s
absolutely
is-
crazy.
Ushi, here's how
I'll tell you why. Also, I'm just saying. Go ahead.
I'll tell you how crazy it is, because what I did, part of the research in my family, was to recognize that we don't take big risks and we don't take what we call unsecure risks, like, entering the area of the unknown unknowns. Okay, so we do a lot of fact finding, and we have to feel secure, and we'll take our time, and we'll do a lot of read up on it. So especially with that DNA of not taking risks, that's why some people see it as how can you be a visionary and not take risks? One of the real outlines of a visionary is that he's drunk and he's fast and he's risky and he doesn't think it through and all of that.
Now, do you watch any shows, Netflix, documentaries, anything at all?
No documentaries at all. I'm a big fan of the Diary of the CEO. They're podcasts out of the UK. Stephen, I can't pronounce his last name for the life of mine.
Very, very familiar.
You could bring it up.
Yeah, no, it's a great podcast. You like listening to podcasts?
I
and,
actually try very hard to
reading.
spend 3 hours a week, at least catch up to one, because he posts twice a week and they're up to 3 hours long. At this point, I'm not going to lie, I'm at 1.75 already in my reading and in my podcasts. So my goal is to get to 2 speed. And that's because I'm on a journey to speed read. Okay. So if you ask me if I remember from all 100 books, what was the one takeaway? I'm in the middle of documenting that. So there are a lot of books that I'm going back to on a high level. And there are apps today that give you the high level points
You're
that you
taking
want
this
to know.
reading thing very seriously.
Very, very serious. Very serious.
So
yeah.
where are you going with all this? Like, what's this all about? Like, what are you actually doing today? How are you making a living? I mean, you're involved with a non-for-profit. You left Culinary Depot. I imagine they're not, giving you a pension.
There's no pension.
Right. So what are you doing today? What's happening at the moment?
Not just the pension, but I want to bring it out that I was fortunate, and Elie Goldring, Nick, happens to be the salesperson right here at Prime Source. So we'll give him a shout out.
Wait a second. Are you guys brothers?
We are brothers. My younger
There's
brother.
the connection.
That's
I don't believe it. Then you guys have the same last name, and yet I did not connect the dots. That's pretty crazy.
We were born in different houses, but we were raised in the same home. So I was born in Brooklyn, and actually he was born. Okay, cut that out.
Yeah.
He was actually born in Brooklyn.
So we can't fact check that.
Yeah, that we can't fact check.
I don't think Google knows. So
I
it's
just want to
okay.
say, Elie, we don't cut any of this out.
Yeah, you'll get away with it. Yeah, you said like
You're
three
going to have
times
to run
already.
with it. I'm sorry.
This is the third time saying let's cut it out. Like, there's no cutting here. We don't have funds in our company to cut also and to edit.
1 second.
Like, we're just doing this part. That's it. The rest goes out. It is what it is.
We had someone very special on the podcast who said to us we should overcome it. And it's when Ushi had something, I'll never forget it. And we left it in. And from then we decided when we have mishaps, let's leave the natural discussion in there. So we're very proud of that.
Yeah, we do real journalism over here. We don't edit it
All right,
like
cut that, please.
like CBS.
Fast forward. We were
editing
born
out
in the
people's
same
interviews.
home, and we were raised in the same home. Nachman is my brother, and I'm very fortunate that he was part of Culinary Depot as well.
You brought him in?
No, I did not bring him in actually, but I was fortunate to be able to mentor him at that point. And not because he was my brother. At that point, I was kind of mentoring everybody that was in sales. I was the go-to because I was the first guy. And at that point, we were already growing to the point where Michael was sitting in a purchasing seat and not involved in sales and, in that area. That being said, he inquired my entire portfolio, my team, and my people.
Wow.
So, yeah,
that's a brotherly love right there.
That's my point, yes.
Whew.
Do the right thing for family.
What a
So
gift.
there's no exit strategy in regards to compensation. We're in good terms. I love the team over there.
You
Fast
should have a
forward.
lot of bracha, by the way.
Amen.
You and your
Amen.
brother.
So what am I doing?
all the
So
Culinary people.
my parnasa, I tell everybody, comes from the Siyat D'Shmai that I had at
Okay, that's one check box. What's the next box?
And the second one is that I do one-on-one coaching for business owners and sales leaders, and I do EOS implementation for full teams. Now, why do I make a distinction? Because not everybody is ready to go on that journey of EOS, and it's not as impactful for an independent person like a solopreneur as it is for a large team and a big company.
We got to get into this EOS thing because every time you say like I do EOS, it sounds like you're saying I do ayahuasca or something.
Right.
Like it's some kind of drug that you're a shaman and you're helping people, breathe, and all that. So let's get into what the heck is this EOS
Very good.
thing?
So let's fast forward. So
Yeah.
I do EOS because I implement it at other
Culinary.
companies.
You started at Culinary. That was your first experience with it.
No, with Hope.
Oh, okay.
My first interaction was
Don't look at me. I paid attention. I know exactly what you're saying. Yes, I know.
Ushi, here, look
At
here,
home.
look here.
Michael, I have dyslexia, Michael.
That's when you asked him exactly when it. Take us back.
So very good. So let's go back. So Tzvi Schwartz introduces it to me. He does his 90-minute presentation, and he hands me a book. Little did he know how dyslexic I am that I threw the book on the windowsill, and I haven't touched it for about 9 months. COVID came, and then I found myself with a lot of time. Fast forward, about 9 months later, I went to a business seminar, and I was out networking, because that's what I do at seminars. Why do I go to trade shows and seminars? Because I love people, and I love to network. And one of the presentations were a tool of the EOS system. A friend of mine comes out of the seminar, and he says, Elie, that's what it is. You got to become an EOS implementer. He has read the book 7 years earlier. He knew a lot of the concepts. He had a very, very small company. He said, if you were on stage, you would own that room. That's when I called Tzvi Schwartz, and I said, you know what? I want to embark in this journey again. Tell me more about this EOS stuff. And he said, did you read the book? And I said, I can't read the book. Well, listen to it. And that's when I got introduced to listening, actually.
To audiobooks.
To audiobooks, yeah. I finished that book that night. Started my second book called Rocket Fuel, because it's mentioned in the traction book, the whole duo between a visionary and integrator, first in command, second in command, CEO, COO, all those different terms that you want to use for those positions. And that's when I had my light bulb moment to recognize that certain hurdles that I did have through my Culinary Depot journey, because everyone has them, is that part of myself seeing myself as a visionary and trying to embark in that journey. Now, it's very hard for a company to have multiple visionaries as the CEO. But when you have an organization like Culinary Depot and you have 250 plus employees, you're going to have a lot of those driven people, and you're going to have just a lot of the other people. So at one point we said we're even going to put together a cohort of all those driven people and just collaborate together and come up with ideas and everything like that. So that's still in talks. That's one of the areas that I'm going to be working with them in regards to, bringing together some of the energy and my resources and my knowledge within that industry. So back to EOS, that is my primary parnasa today, of being able to coach individuals. My short 3-second elevator pitch is that I help entrepreneurs and solopreneurs get unstuck. That's it. That's how simple it is.
By using the EOS model?
By using the EOS model or utilizing a specific tool of
Within
EOS.
EOS, right. Okay.
Correct.
So it's fragmented. You could take certain pieces out of it and then implement it for people depending on their needs.
Correct. You could. There is a proven process so that if your company is large enough and you have the funds and time and there's a need to implement the full process, go for it. It's not a shortcut. But for all those that are independent or they're just struggling with delegating or predicting or systemizing or simplifying, there's a lot of tools and resources in EOS. There's a lot from Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach. There's a great coach out there that I started reading his books, Stephen Chandler. So there's a lot of resources out there that have great stuff.
Can I give you one example, a real life example of something that's happening in our company? And
if you want to share it, let's go.
I'm not going to say name, but I'm going to share it right now. But you're welcome to please utilize some of the.
By the way, I changed my mind.
EOS systems and change my mind about what?
We might have to start cutting stuff. I don't know what you're about to share.
I'm going to share something.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
So I have.
One second. This is called entering the danger. Give him the space, and we're doing it right now. Give him the space to enter the danger, and we'll battle it together.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to truly divulge
go ahead.
all the details.
No,
I'm try to keep it vague, so I guess people wouldn't be able to figure out exactly who it is that I'm talking about.
Okay.
But I'm sure every company has this scenario. I'm sure every company has this. So this is probably a very wholesome problem that people have. So we have 15 people that are actively selling every single day.
Expense advisors.
Expense advisors, Michael likes to call with a fancy term.
Yes,
at
that is
the end of the day, they're
term for
Thank you.
I like that.
I appreciate
sure,
it.
but they're sales reps at the end of the day.
Nope,
is what
they're
they are.
expense advisors. We're building them their own brand. They're selling a service, a consultation service, and it's free service. And
They're providing solutions.
absolutely.
To nursing
We're gonna
home
get EOS
operators.
into here, baby.
Go for it.
Continue.
So regardless of what we call them, the bottom line is I have one individual who's very smart, very intellectual, processes information very, very well. He actually is one of my top people as far as really understanding and really knowing the mechanics of what our business does, the back end, the front end. Like, he's smart, quite frankly. I already narrowed it down to a he, so I'm already going into, by the time I'm done, Michael will be like, oh, you're talking about this person. But anyway, he's checks a lot of boxes, really does. And I think that he would do very well in a lot of companies. So I feel we're very fortunate that we have this person. However, there's one side that really, really gets me, is that I don't feel like they're very motivated. They're not very hungry or driven to become mega rich. Like, if they do a sale or two within, the month, they're happy. They're good with just getting by, and they're not just trying to double down and triple down and just do more and more and more and more. And I've called this person out on this a few times, and I've said to them, like, you can be way more successful than you're being. Like, why do you not want more? Like, why do I have to give you that motivation? Why do I have to give you that speech every now and then? Why aren't you doing this by yourself? Like, you have a family, and I'm sure you want to do bigger things for yourself. I can understand if he has all the tools and he's able to do it. Why aren't you doing it more? Why aren't you doing it a lot?
I just want to clarify your question.
What's preventing you?
Your question to our good friend here, Elie, who's a now very well reputable business consultant utilizing EOS processes and systems, right? You're asking him, how can I motivate someone?
No, I know how to motivate him.
So what's the question?
But my motivation dies down after like a month or two.
What's your question?
He reverts back to his old ways. So I get him fired up for that first, couple of months.
How do I keep him motivated? What's your question?
Yeah. Why do I have to keep motivating him?
That's what I'm asking.
Why doesn't he have this desire on his own? Like if you have a skill set and you're able to translate that into money, and you're able to do something with it, wouldn't you try to repeat that or
And
as
you wanna
often
help
as
him.
possible so you can make more and more money? I'm not saying that he's already going at a really fast pace, and I'm saying you should accelerate it and go at a really unmatched pace. He's going at a very slow pace. He's going at a very, very slow pace to the point that sometimes I'm a little bit disappointed. Like I feel like you're not working 40 hours. You're not even putting in the full week. So I can't complain because I like his production, and he brings a lot of other things to the team as well outside of just his actual sales. Great for camaraderie. He's good for our culture. He's good for he brings a lot of good things, and he's also very capable on top of it. So then I get him fired up, and for the next month, like he's a star. He's really, really good. But why do I got to have that oversight? Why do I got to be like micromanaging you almost to that level? And if I don't, if I step back, I almost feel like he would go to sleep. I feel like he actually wouldn't do anything. And he's not making a tremendous amount of money. He's not making a tremendous amount of money. So I'm like, why are you not, you're in the prime of your life. You have, these are your golden years. Why aren't you going out and getting it? You can't say, well, I just can't. I'm not capable. You're very capable. We both know that. That's not the issue.
Again, I'm sorry to do this. So I'm clarifying for a reason. You're asking, how do I help this person maximize his potential and help him motivate without having to remind him, because I want him to be successful.
Yes.
Right.
Or am I beating a dead horse? Or is he
just,
that's his personality and that's never going to change? And the old adage is, keep doing the same things over and over and expect a different outcome. That's the epitome of foolishness.
By the way, thankfully, your question applies to so many different people. So it's a very common challenge.
Yeah, so I'm curious.
And like the question.
Is there a remedy? Yeah. Is there some type of secret, a tip, a trick within the EOS world that can talk to this? Or can you at least explain it?
This episode is brought to you by tapestryhealth.com. Tapestry Health is transforming healthcare. They're using AI technology and human touch and effectively making change in the care that your loved one is getting at a nursing home or at home today. Check out tapestryhealth.com.
If I had to sum it up in one place, I want to take it to two sides of it a second, because it's a you problem and a him problem.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, the question is...
I like where this is going.
The question is, who wants it more? And then go to the Simon Sinek. Why do you want it? Now, let's just say that you picked the point that he could do better.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say it's a him problem for a second, okay? Now, you're saying that you're motivating him. I want to take that word and change it a second. You're inspiring him every time he falls to the sideline, okay? That's going to take a lot of hard work from you. You use the word micromanage. I don't like that word at all.
No, I don't micromanage.
You're not micromanaging.
I'm not at all.
He's a free bird. He's his own guy.
Exactly.
And he's good what he does. He doesn't have to be. You're not repeating yourself and telling him to do the same thing over and over. You're just re-energizing him. So you're inspiring him again, and you're reminding him of the shiny stuff, or the glory, or the area that he doesn't go.
Exactly.
So you can't want it more than him. That's first. That would be like a you problem. With a him problem, I'm going to go to what I would say, if you have to pinpoint it to one thing, does he really understand where the company is going and how strong of an asset and player he is to this company? Don't answer me. Is there clarity around truly what the long-term goal is for this company? Now, I had this debate with a certain guy, okay? And I asked him this question, and it came very similar. How do I get my guys to hustle? Okay, that was the way he asked it. And I said, let me ask you this question. Okay, in 25 years from now, if you go public, everyone's going to win in your company, or only you, or only the people on the top? How are you going to set that going public up? Or if you sell the business, are you going to share certain profits? So why should someone that's a part of your organization understand where you're going if you didn't share it with them? So you have to go a little deeper to understand what are the things that are going to really inspire him. Meaning, how does he know that he's a great asset for retirement here? That was one of the things that I actually had security at Culinary Depot, knowing that if and it was actually one of my dreams, and I'll go back to that. I have dreams and goals, okay? So one of my dreams were to retire at Culinary Depot after 35 years. Going to retirement where I don't have to work 40 hours a week, okay? I don't plan on retiring until they put me in a box. But that was the gut that I said I still have in me, that I want to give everything that I can from Culinary Depot from a different perspective, okay? So does he understand that? maybe there's a fear factor there that he just looks at it as a short-term job, which could be 5, 10, 15 years, but it's not 35 plus years. So there's that gray area, let's call it. And when you crystallize that for him, then he can get motivated to the point where it doesn't become a you problem anymore.
So I have never done that. But the tactic that I've always used was that you have your own franchise within our company because you're a salesperson. You're running your own business at the end of the day. And every time you do another sale, you make more money. And it's also residual. You know, the way we pay here, which is very unique, not a lot of sales companies do this, is that when you do a sale, you make that money over and over every single year. So it's in perpetuity and it's residual, which is amazing. So I keep telling him, like, you just closed the deal, you just made a sale, make a second and a third, and you'll make triple the amount of money. So that's how I always position it for him, is the more sales you do, the more money you make. So if you make one sale for the week and you feel like, all right, I'm done, I'm going to sleep now for the rest of the week, and I'm not doing anything, I ask him why. Why aren't you doing a second sale so you can make double the amount? So he has his own goal and his own dream that he should have. My question is, why doesn't he have a dream and a goal?
Very good.
Why does he have to be infused in my dream and my goal?
It's
if
not
I want
aligned
to,
with
It's just
your
not
goal.
aligned where you're going.
Yeah,
So he's going at his own pace.
Yes.
That's it.
In his own style.
Yes.
And that's irking.
And
you a
that's
little.
bothering me.
And that's
Why do
bothering
you have that style for yourself, which, by the way, does affect me, because
Sure.
if you don't make more sales, I also don't make more money either. as
Yeah, but
well.
that-
But it's okay. I have other ways to monetize in the company. You're not the
Right,
only
there you
person
go.
that I'm relying on.
You as leadership, okay, you get to monetize in many different areas
Yes.
where he doesn't.
Correct.
Maybe that's bothering him a little bit. Maybe he wants to go into a channel where he wants to get more comfortable. Maybe there's another role that he could take on and he feels more empowered. Maybe he just wants clarity on what's the long picture here. What's the end goal for him? Now,
Okay, I
that's
hear
one
it.
way. Another
I
way,
don't know if that's so reasonable for him to have as an expectation. It's either that or he doesn't do his full job to his full capacity.
No,
like it's one or the other.
It's his capacity, not your capacity. So you just have to know, is the glass half full or half empty? Now, that's one way. Another great way, you say that you're inspiring him or energizing him and
By the
motivating
way,
him.
dynamite speeches. You should hear some of those. Like somebody was on the call with me when I did one of those. It was like an hour long, and I really just I didn't rip into him. It was with love. It was with TLC, but it was also like really making a lot of good points, and it was fire. It was really good, and I felt good about it afterwards. And I'm like, this guy's gonna be a top performer now going forward. There's no way. Like I revived him. I breathed new life into this person. And it works for 3, 4, 5 weeks. It works. And then, like a rubber band, it just goes right back to where it was. And I've done this now many times over many years. This is somebody who's been here for a while. I've done this many times, and it's just like the same old story. But he just gets by. He's good enough. Like, I would never get rid of him. He's good for the company in a lot of ways. But he could be doing so much more. He could be.
I don't want to get stuck on this one guy because we're not gonna get to solve this.
I just want to interject. The concept of someone wanting to do more is just you're not aligned. He doesn't need to pay tuition like you need to pay tuition today. That's really the reality.
Yeah.
So
you may have to educate
That's
him,
also
but,
a good point.
But here's
I don't know how much more money he actually needs.
his
to live.
desires are not to
And-
make $1 million a year.
do you know
Our mind frame
There are
is
people
totally different.
like that, by the way. There are, that's why one of the most important questions when you ask a salesperson, which I'm going to admit that, of course, they're salespeople by their trade. I'm just branding them better, right? That one of the first questions you ask them, why are you doing this? To me, if one of their answers is not because I want to make a lot of money, then you're in the wrong business.
Correct.
So
I always look for
maybe
that
ask
answer.
the question to that guy and see what happens is all I'm going to say. That's all.
Yeah, so go back to that, and I want to point out one more because if we are bringing up this topic, and like you said, it's such a wide topic.
Yeah, no,
so many people relate
so
to
many
it.
different businesses. Yeah. By the way, I know nursing home operators that have this challenge with their marketers.
That's right.
That's
right.
Vendors that have this challenge with their sales reps, and marketers and many different facets of different businesses that have this.
Ask yourself this question, but don't answer it out loud. Okay, how often do you really recognize and reward him to his level and his needs, not what you could do or should do?
Whew. What a great question.
But don't answer that.
You know what? I appreciate you saying not to answer that.
Yeah, because we can go into a
exactly.
podcast of 5
You get
hours
into
just
a-
of
you
that.
get into a rabbit hole of
whole
this.
Rabbit
Yeah,
hole.
yeah.
Right?
One of the best questions I was recently educated to when you go to a review with your boss, you're sitting down with them and you're saying, I want to raise, right? I have more value to me than I have this year than I had last year, is the advice that I was given and I give over to a lot of people is how can I get to this path that I want to get to in the next 2 years? That's the question you should be asking an employer when you're doing a review for yourself. So I think that you should use that in reverse. And you ask the guy today, give him a call, say, where do you see yourself in 2 years? What is your goals and aspirations? So we could be aligned, because then you could follow. Reb Elie's here, and I'm calling you Reb already because I learned something from you.
Yeah,
that's my rule. When I learn something from you, you're my Rebbe. So Reb Elie.
Why did I never get the term Reb? You never learned anything
There's a
from me?
reason for it. Did you not hear what I just said?
Not even one thing?
I'm kidding,
In all
I'm
the
kidding.
20 years that
I've
you know
told
me,
you,
you've never learned one thing?
No, I'm just an outsider, so he's happy that he gets my time to sit in the seat and learn from me at the same time.
I don't know why I have a hard time calling you Reb Ushi. You've taught me a lot of things, Ushi, I swear.
Just the wrong things. I've taught you the wrong things. I've been a bad influence.
I'm just going to say, Reb Elie, the process that you're using with EOS and your consultation narrative that you brought to the table from everything that you've done over the past 2 decades is evident in everything you just said and the way you responded. And I'm actually in awe of the way you're taking this question. I really, really appreciate the background. And I actually want to learn more about you and more about where you're going. And a career in 40 for a change to me is a very big deal. I know you're not a show watcher, but one of my favorite shows that I started, you want to turn your brain off and just watch a good show that keeps moving. It's called The Rookie. So it's a good show, and it just keeps moving. And it's about a guy who in his 40s, at 40, is like, I'm done being a contractor for 20 years. He was in a situation at a bank, and he did something brave, and he realized, I want to be a police officer. And as a 40-year-old, he's a rookie. So that's what the show is about, the premise of it. You're like the rookie. You're the guy coming into business consultation. In the beginning, I may have thought, who do you think you are to start consulting for businesses? But now I'm listening to you, and I'm hearing the 2 decades that you had, and Ushi, yes, thank you for teaching me that term, 2 decades, that you had an experience of starting off as a salesman. I'm in awe of it, and I wanted to learn more about it. I want to understand that process of what you did to get there. Like, you're a salesman, and then you went to the next step, and now you're doing consultation. What was that journey like for you?
So before I answer, I have to go back for a second because I mentioned the fact of reward and recognition of your employees or your salespeople. And I think salespeople specifically need it in a whole different way than an average individual needs, especially those that you want to try to get to drive further, faster. Okay. Michael touched on it, and I want to go with it. That's the one-on-one reviews. I can't put more emphasis on it, how important it is just to get into the room and ask one question. How are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do those here.
Right. So
very religiously, as a matter of fact.
Right.
We have our own, by the way, Prime Source, thank God, has our own EOS process.
Yeah.
So
we're very big into the reviews.
Yeah.
To that point, every single business is running on a process.
Sure.
The question, do you know it? Do you repeat it?
Yeah.
Do you tap into it? Do you review it? Do you change it? Do you update it? Does everybody know what process you're on? That's number one.
Yeah.
Okay. That's going into the whole part of systems. As humans, okay, the PhDs out there, sorry, you say it's 80% psychology and 20% systems. My new philosophy is that it's 80% systems, 20% psychology. So the whole human is a system. Think about it like your rituals in the morning. You get up, you do X, Y, and Z. That's called a system, okay? So going back to your part that, it unravels every single day in a different way. And, I've done many different types of personality tests, strength tests, thinking, all these different tests out there. Colby, DISC, Myers-Briggs, there's many others. And I'm getting to learn who I really am and what is it that I really love doing. Like, I studied Simon Sinek's Start With Why and Build Your Why for 24 months, every single week, until I perfected my why and I did my research. I spoke to hundreds of people to understand how they reflected and who they thought I was and what parts of me did they really like and even what parts did they not like. So people have this thought or notion or concept that I can only learn from someone that has 30 years of experience of that factor. Okay, so if I'm going to become a contractor and I want to learn how to do construction, I'm going to go work for someone that has 30 years of experience. I'm going to learn the trade from him. That's very true. Okay, but then you could also learn from someone that, let's call it, read up about it and is just very curious about it and understands a lot of the systems and processes, what it takes to be a very good contractor. He can't teach you how to build. but he can set up the mindset and the framework of what does it take to be a great contractor. Okay? I don't do consulting, so I'm going to go back on that word. I don't like that word, actually. I do coaching. I ask the right questions because I try to put myself in other people's situations. And yes, I also have 2 decades of a lot of knowledge. And that's why I tell everybody I'm bringing that street smarts and book smarts together. And that's why I believe that, my ideal client is someone that is in the age of 35 to 55. People that are in the areas that have less experience of what it is that I've done or what I've achieved or what I've overcome. And that's why it ties all back in a sense to my why. Now, my why is to inspire people to tap into the unique ability to be able to help others to feel fulfilled. Then you ask, in what ways do I do that? I can do it through hope. I did it through Culinary Depot. I'm doing it through coaching. And ultimately, when I turn 55, I hope to dedicate all of my time to the dyslexia world, to go out there and change the way of teaching and learning for those that are driven in the traditional classroom.
So that's a goal or a dream, and just to clarify.
So that is a vision.
Oh, it's a vision.
That's a vision.
Another category.
That's another category.
Right.
So let's talk
There's
about
vision,
There's
dream,
visions,
and
dreams,
goals.
and goals, but let's bring it all together, okay?
Yeah.
So what differentiates a vision and a dream?
A vision is where it's really obtainable to you. You feel like you just need to, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of repetitiveness and just doing those things, being consistent, and you'll get there. And you have a vision and you see the ending and you see the destination and you're on that path. And every day you're chipping away and you're chipping away. I feel like a dream is more of, I don't know if I'm ever going to get that. It's not really realistic in your mind. I would love to do that. Like, but you're still making attempts, but half-hearted attempts. You're not really chasing after it. You're hoping it's going to happen.
Ushi, I think you are running on EOS, by the way.
like
we
that,
should
by
just
the
give you a couple of those tools and terminology, and then you'll be really in my bubble. But that's exactly what it is.
I'm just using my logic.
That is the
No,
logic.
but you're also using your experience.
Your
And
experience.
that's why I said to you, I wasn't joking, and I like that, by the way, the terminology of coaching. I'm going to use that. I'm going to pick that one up.
And we don't give advice.
Yeah.
We share experiences.
We share experiences.
And we only talk from experience.
Yeah, no, that's very good.
So that-
very
yeah,
positive
that's-
outlook. I
that's
like,
a very
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Ushi's interpretation of a vision and a dream is completely aligned with mine. So I love what you just said.
So Ushi, you gave a great explanation to that. And for me, and those that know about EOS, it's a goal. So the differentiation is one thing. It's a goal. Why? A goal has to be SMART. Okay? SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So that's exactly everything that you just said in one big word. So it's a long-term goal. It could be anywhere from 5 to 30 years out. And I was a dreamer, okay? And I moved the needle and understand and tapped into my unique ability and who am I really by doing all these different tests and reading a lot of books and choosing different paths and different directions that I want to take my life in to recognize that this is my goal. So that's it. It's very simple. 55, I want to see myself financially free to be able to dedicate my 40 hours a week to help children and teens with dyslexia.
Wow. That's a great goal. I wish I had a goal as, as commendable as yours. I don't know if I want to free up my time so I can, help other people. Sure, I love to help, and it's a good feeling to help, but not all of us are aiming to get to a certain destination that I can literally just devote all my time to help other people.
Well,
So
he's already in the
beautiful.
5%
That's
with
very
the
nice.
dyslexia. So he's like, he's also 5% of that kind of person that has a goal like this in the next 10, 15 years. Amazing.
And I was never goal-oriented. I was never time-sensitive or time-blocking, and I never had any goals. I worked at Culinary for 18 plus years, almost 20 years, okay? And I've never had a goal starting January. There was no such thing.
That, by the way, that's what I wanted to tap into earlier, which we will in a second. Ushi needs to run, so I know that you have a cutoff. So you can get out of here. It's fine, and we'll finish up. It's okay. No, let's do it. Okay. All right, so Stefan, thanks for filling Ushi's shoes in the last few minutes of this pod.
Pleasure.
You were very vital today in our success with the searches and the facts. So I want to continue and wrap this up, but I want to wrap it up properly. in really tapping back into how that transition happened to you. I am so curious because it's like I said, the Rookie television show is a unique thing. I'm a big, advocate towards that opinion of that. This is not a common thing. That you don't start changing your career when you're 40. Although it happens, and KFC was founded, and I'm sure there's 1,000 other examples. I think it's like your dyslexia. You're of the 5% or less of people that are embarking on a journey like this. So I wish you a lot of luck in it. I want to learn from the hardest time that you had in your career, what you've learned from it when you were doing the time at Culinary and you did not have your visions and goals and your schedules and so on. How did that affect you? What, looking back now, using that tool, what could you have done differently? I want to talk about that journey for a minute before we wrap up, because I'm so curious about a guy who's a salesman in a company and he's growing and he's developing, and good for you. You've grown over the 20 years there, obviously. You went from sales to, I want to know the titles that you went to real quick. Can you just throw them out to me?
For that,
you did sales, you did...
So for that, you have to go to LinkedIn, because over there it's beautifully
No, but tell it to me,
orchestrated.
though. Now,
Yeah, I started off as a salesman. Then I led a sales team. I was a sales manager.
how many people?
A team. I led a team of 5. I oversaw the sales department of about 7 at that point.
Good. Then the next
different
level,
people.
take me to the next
And
level.
then the next level was business development. So it was about new strategies.
And
new
then you moved your
markets.
office to Lakewood or something? Like
So
you had,
Lakewood, I was always based out of Lakewood. I always came
They
to
opened
Muncie.
something in Lakewood
A
also.
retail store. I had nothing to do with
Right,
retail. Retail
right.
was not a division.
Right.
And then I was very fortunate to be able to, being that I had my hands in multiple different pieces of the business, different, from healthcare to retail to supermarkets to other, GC contracts.
That's what's
and
amazing. I don't think people
Yeah.
realize Culinary Depot touches every single business.
everything. Yeah, there's 13 different channels. I'm not
As
gonna
long
go
as you're
through all
making
of them.
food,
Yeah.
as long as you're producing food.
So we call it from dock to dine. It used to be. So anything
Love it.
that reaches the dock and ends up in the dining room,
Love it.
we do
So
everything.
you had a
in between.
long career of people underneath you that you were managing and you were leading and you were learning and you were adapting and you were sharing and all that for a number of years.
Yeah, all of that. And that if you want, if you want to sum it up, that's a lot of coaching involved,
Yeah.
not recognizing and not
So
doing it with the
who led
intention
you
of the
then
coaching.
over those 2 years, over those 2
So-
decades? Who was your mentor?
For the most part, Michael Lichter was my mentor, and he was my backbone. Okay,
Beautiful.
So he was
He's
my
internally he's with you every day.
he was internal every
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
and we used to sit down and break bread, as they call it, once or twice a year, and just laugh back and say how much less time we're getting to spend, and as the years went on and we each went deeper into the company, but in a different
That's
area
beautiful.
of the company.
And then you see each other once every 2 days, and you smile. You
We
catch up for a half an hour.
All the way to the
great.
point where it was almost like every 30, 60, or 90 days sometimes. There were times that I went like 90.
You're both succeeding in your own ways, but growing the company to an enormous place. right,
Correct.
together. It's amazing.
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
Actually, 2 questions. How long is the process to do EOS? What does it take? Is it a 6-month process, a year process?
Very good. So,
And
yeah.
does it work for everybody? Do you have cases where it's not gonna jive?
So we have what's called a target market. Okay, so who are those people that are right in the right spot at the right time? So those are companies that are between 10 and 250 employees. That's our sweet spot. Yes, EOS is being implemented for companies that have well over 1,000 employees. And I have friends that are solopreneurs that I give them the book and they self-implement and they pick and choose how to do it on their own speed. Yes, there's a proven process. It takes 2 years to roll it out for the leadership team. And then dependently on each company, some go faster, some go slower. They push it down throughout each department and throughout all levels of the company. It all depends how deep your company goes. So if you have 4 levels, 5 levels, 3 levels, if you have 30 people, 300 people, you could, it takes longer.
So implementing EOS takes a minimum of how long?
2 years for leadership to be on the mindset,
Wow.
comfortable with the tools.
It's a very long time, by the way.
It's
Are you with them throughout their 2 years?
I am with them throughout the 2 years. We meet
So
quarterly.
they're paying a monthly fee for this service.
They're paying no. They pay per session with a guarantee that if they don't get the expected value during that day session, they do not pay.
Wow. That's very
However,
bold.
very bold, we provide value first, compensation second.
Okay, that's your thing. That's not EOS.
That is EOS. No matter which EOS implementer you are going to,
Got it. Who started
Fine.
EOS?
Gino Wickman is the founder.
Okay.
Don Tinney is his partner.
All right.
And from there,
What did they do? Were they the contractor or were they the book readers?
D'Antoni, I don't know much about, so
Okay.
I can't tell you. But Gino Wickman was the contractor. He was
Got
in
it.
the weeds. Worked
Which
through
one
his-
was dyslexic?
well, Driven definitely is.
Got it. So the EOS system in general is a coaching system used for businesses that once implemented, it takes a minimum of 2 years to actually affect change within your company. And every time you come and you add value, you're guaranteeing that there's going to be value added or your money back guarantee, so to speak, for that session that you paid for.
Correct.
How many
So-
times do you have to meet throughout those 2 years as a minimum?
So it's quarterly. It's once
Okay.
a quarter, and
Got
at
it.
the year end we do twice. Going back, Gino Wickman is the visionary part of the EOS
yeah.
part. And another thing, just to correct that you said, because I want to give everybody
go
the
for it.
right.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't worry, you can correct me. It's all good.
you will find value after the very, very first time that we spend 30 minutes or 90 minutes.
So what do you
30
correct
minutes.
exactly?
30. You said it takes 2 years to get the value out of it. So it takes 2 years to get the
No, to see change, I
implementation.
said.
Well, you're going
Implement change.
to see change after the very first day we
So
meet.
what do I need 2 years for?
Because it's a process in regards to rolling out all 20 tools and becoming
so you're saying
really,
I'm gonna-
really aligned.
Right.
Your leadership team, where it's going to get to at the end of the 2 years, is what you're aiming for.
Got it. So you're saying
So
it
that's
takes-
the 2 year journey.
right. So for me never to come back and for you to be fly solo will require for 12 sessions, right? But each session you will be developing yourself from the level 1 to 10. You're going to get to 2 to 4 to 6, depending how quickly obviously you implement, and so on.
You and your team.
Right.
And
So you're
depending on the
paying-
size of the organization,
Right.
the entire organization.
Got it. Are you guys at EOS trained to help throughout that quarter, or you let go? Meaning you come in, you say your thing, you rely on leadership to do their thing for the next 3 months.
Every implementer handles that a little bit differently,
it.
depending on
Got
where
it.
your journey
Do you
is.
pay a fee to be part of the EOS club?
Yes, we do. We have a monthly franchise fee, and that's why each implementer has to build out his own customer base.
Got it. What are they giving you for that?
They give us Monday morning calls, coaching, quarterly collaborations, metro collaborations, support, materials, guidance, everything that I need.
Right. To my point earlier, by the way, you don't call yourself a sales rep, right?
I am not a sales
Yeah,
rep. That's why
exactly.
it's called the EOS implementer.
Right. You're an EOS implementer.
And I'm a coach.
Like you're a coach. We have expense advisors. Right. But ultimately, you're selling your service, right? Ultimately, I'm selling my service. Ultimately, people are selling their service and they're marketing it. and-
Yes and no, because let me tell you
Yeah.
something. Yes, you always have to go out and,
Sure.
and engage with new people
Sure.
and continue selling. So you have to have a little
Yes.
bit of that sales
Yes.
recipe in you. And then hopefully you get to a point where ultimately every salesperson would like to get to is where it's referral based.
Sure.
So if you do a great job, you get your flywheel.
Yeah, no, my point
going.
was that even the best surgeon in the world needs someone to promote them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. You're always going to need
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
a
So
platform.
we're core values of salespeople. We're sales. We're selling. Yeah, I was just mocking Ushi when I was saying earlier. I still believe that having on a title on a business card, an expense advisor, that's really who you are because you spent 2 years training under our umbrella. Now you're an advisor, right? Same with you guys. It takes 2 years.
Correct. And I love for the sales seat, for those that are in leadership, Chief Revenue Officer.
That's Ushi's new title.
Oh, that's
Oh my God! I wish he was here for that.
That is.
Oh, he's gonna hear
the
it.
most-
Ushi, you heard that? Wow.
Look at that. Okay. He's not director of sales. Or,
Ushi's title is Chief Revenue Officer because he really is responsible for the revenue.
Revenue.
Ultimately.
That's
and it is a
exactly
big
correct.
piece of what happens here. I look forward to our 90-minute review. Before I let you go, I'm going to ask you something that we always ask our guests, which is to pick somebody to be a guest on the next None of Your Business podcast. But I have to ask you, and to finish that journey of yours over the 20 years, tell me about a mistake that you made or something looking back what you would implement, because knowing everything you know now, the 41-year-old sudden reader, coacher, organized, it's fascinating to me that you've done that. Most people, I'm sorry, Stefan, maybe you can Google, how many people have mid-age crisis? Most people don't do this. Most people, in my opinion, have the crisis where they have to buy the convertible or, go to an island that they dreamed of. So I'm fascinated by that, and I want to learn from that, please.
To me, it seems like you're taking a pause. You shifted careers, but in the back of your mind, you keep on saying, Culinary Depot is still not top of mind, but it's there. I'm eventually going back in some way. I pivoted, but I'm pivoting back eventually.
So I'm not part of the organization, so I'll be an outside contractor to them. Similar to what I'm doing for others.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't be the implementation of EOS for
I
them.
understood that, by the
because
way.
there's a lot of industry
Where were you
knowledge
before?
that I have.
No, I'm
But
saying
I want to go back to that.
You embarked on a new life right now.
A whole new
You're-
life,
You're a
a whole new
coach.
life.
You're all in.
I'm
and
all
this is
in.
what your thing is.
Correct.
100%. I get it.
And if I have to reflect back, and it's a long answer, so I'll try to give it in the short amount of time. Pre-COVID, I put 90% of my focus in Manhattan, and a out of the ordinary scenario that fell in
Extraordinary.
out of ordinary. It was purely from God. It landed in my lap, and I never forget. Like the phone call came in at like 6:30 as I'm pulling up, which wasn't the norm. Usually I got home like 9 o'clock. I landed with a contractor in the city that outfitted the high-end restaurants and did a tenant fit out, and he was known for his speed. So I came in, and he brought me into a architect firm, and from there we were on track in 2020 to build out 84 restaurants together.
Get out of here.
I promise. Not just that, I actually did 8 with him just in January and February of 2020, and I did 4 in December of 19.
I'm sorry. Each build out is how much?
Each build out was just about $250,000
Times 84.
times 84
Over how many years?
in 1 year. In 1 year. That was a 1 year rollout of a new franchise.
I feel like I'm at a wedding now trying to figure out how much money you would have made. You know, like,
Exactly.
Steph!
Okay. So and that journey was rapid because a couple of months later we had another contract lined up for 164 cafes. It was like a $55,000 budget. Real small cafes in lobbies and things like that, whatever. And we outfitted like 8 of them. Okay. So I was on a rapid growth with him. It was crazy. And I put all my focus and all my strength there. Matter of fact, I sat in Manhattan with a driver every single Wednesday because I had the weekly meetings with him, weekly meetings with the architect, and then I did all the site surveys that I had to do for the week to understand what's going
This
on.
is
and what's
the
next.
customer of all customers.
This was like my
The
peak.
pinnacle.
This is the pinnacle. This was like, wow. And then COVID came. And everything came crashing down to the point where I'm still owed money.
Wow.
There's still restaurants that I have liens on their buildings that are still empty today.
Stop it.
Yeah, they went out of business because it was a startup.
I have to tell you, a lot of people listening to this.
So one
right-
second. So ask me, what did I learn from that?
Oh,
What I learned from that now being an EOS implementer is I didn't have clarity around my vision in regards to why am I there and how much time should I be focusing there and what diversity am I supposed to be doing?
Are you basically saying
Back then-
you were putting too many eggs in one basket?
I put too many eggs in my basket. I'll tell you, in healthcare, at one point I had 1,600 nursing homes. Those years, it shrunk down to under 1,000. I was letting things go. And as I was building a team, I was building a team for the Manhattan work, and I kind of left things to slip away. So going back to it, I wasn't organized. I wasn't managing my time right. There's so many things I did wrong at that
By
point.
the way, that's the sweet spot right there. What
Yes,
you're
it is.
talking about right now, if anyone's listening and is experiencing this process of scaling, that's what we call it, scaling a company, right?
Scaling your company.
Right, and figuring out all the nuances and the moving parts. Where should I spend my time and prioritize? Just like life, you're married to your business, right? You want that to work just as well as you want your marriage to work. Prioritize, implement.
predict.
Yeah.
Long-term
Fascinating.
goals, short-term goals,
Love it.
the who's, the how's, the what's, the where's, the when's.
And the why.
And
but it
then-
starts with the whys. though.
Start
Let's
with
not
why.
forget Simon Sinek.
Start with why.
Yeah, I'm
So-
a big Simon Sinek.
So
fan.
I want to leave this with one point is, okay, there are people that know what they know. There are people that know what they don't know, like what the market is going to be tomorrow, right? And things that are not dependent on you directly. And then there are things you don't know that you don't know. And as a business owner, I think you have to spend a lot of time in the area of uncovering the unknown unknowns. Because the more time you spend there, the more fortunate you could be in spending your time wisely and things like that.
Very well said, by the way. I've had that feeling and thought
you.
for a long time in my life. I think of it spiritually also.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about the unknown of the unknowns. I don't know. What do I not know about the afterlife, heaven, Mashiach? Should I know about it? Should I not? Is my life better if I start learning about it? Is ignorance bliss? You know, that whole question. But anyways,
Everybody should go down their own journey.
so we're going to wrap up. So
Do you want to reflect and
give us a good guest before you go?
So a good guest.
Who would be a good guest for us on the None of Your Business? Did you have a good time?
I had an awesome time, and sorry that we
Did
didn't.
you learn something?
I learned a lot.
We learned
today.
a lot.
I learned a lot
say.
about Ushi and
Stefan here
Stefan
is
over
definitely great. You filled that seat very nicely, asking a couple good questions. I like that. Anyways, look, I learned a lot from this, and like I was telling Maishi earlier, and the fact is that we are on this journey together with this podcast. Our hopes is that we're helping people grow in listening and learning from people's journeys and their beginnings and where they are now and where they hope to go in the future. I think we got all that out of you today. We know where you came from. We know where you're at. We know where you want to go. And that is amazing. Congratulations to you on everything you've done. And I look forward to big, bold, great steps from you throughout the next 14 years of your business career, for you to be able to have your vision, your dream, and your goal implemented. There was one more I'm missing. There's a fourth. There's a vision, goal, and then there's a dream. And that's it, right?
Those three.
Those are
three.
Okay, I want you to know, by the way, in closing, I don't have a bucket list. I have a 5-year list. I've always had it for years. I don't want to look forward to dying. I want to look forward to living. I want to thank you for joining the podcast. I want to thank Prime Source Productions again for having such a great team behind us and making this journey so easy to happen. Stefan, wow, Stefan, like I said, you fill that chair up very nicely. So that's a wrap. Thank you for listening, subscribing, commenting, getting involved. Thank you, Prime Source, and see you next week.